Good evening, I'm Shayna Humphreys. Once again, tonight's 6 o'clock news will look a little bit different than usual. Last week marked 2 years since the Oxford High School shooting shattered 4 families and traumatized an entire community. Tomorrow, the person responsible will be sentenced. But before the focus shifts to that courtroom, we wanted to focus on the lives that were taken in that senseless act. We extended an invitation to the families of Justin Schilling, Madisyn Baldwin, Tate Meir, and Hannah St. Juliana. 2 of those families accepted. Last night, you heard from Justin Schilling's parents, and tonight, Argino Vici sits down with Madisyn Baldwin's mother. We have decided to run these interviews in their entirety with no commercial breaks as part of our dedication to honoring their young lives. As you are about to hear from Madisyn's mom, the grief never goes away, it just changes.
Nicole, tell us a little bit about who Madisyn was.
Madisyn was a bright soul. I used to tell her that she was wiser than her years, only being 17 when she had passed, but her laugh was just infectious and her smile was contagious. I've used those words a lot, but it really is what she was. Her kindness was shown by a lot, friends and family. Sometimes I always thought she put herself last when she should put herself first, and she was amazing to her siblings, more than I could ever imagine a big sister to be. She was grateful for them. She always showed them the ropes and just tried to be an overall great person. And that's how I want her to be remembered, is that way. And know that, there are people out there that are very kind and they have a soul that will live forever.
The reason I began with, what type of person was Madisyn, because literally the last 2 years you have been on this mission to keep her memory alive and explain who she was. And I, as a parent of a 17-year-old, I don't know what I would do. I sat and watched parents in the courtroom sometimes, and I thought, how do you remain composed, like, in these moments? And as a parent, like, how did you remain when you hear details you've never heard before? How did you remain so composed in the courtroom?
Mostly you stay composed for, family members, my other children. Being composed is a reflection of who she was. If I taught her something, I would only expect myself to do the same thing, and she would have had composure, she would have had grace, and not giving any affirmation to people in the courtroom that think they are deserving of it. Not making it known that they have broken me or I'm grieving over this. Just being a strong, proud mom and knowing that I created a human that's just so perfect. And knowing that her siblings one day will watch this or one day will see these things and learn from their mother that there are graceful things in the world, no matter how bad they hurt. And they do. And I would be lying if I said it doesn't hurt. And it does, very much so. But I look at her, my baby, and know that she is giving me the strength to continue on. She would never want me to give up, lose faith, lose hope. She would want me to continue. Wow. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
And one common thing I hear, from viewers or people I know is, since this unfortunate tragedy for you guys, it's just been one thing after another. It's court cases, it's finding out about reports, and I heard one comment. These parents, have they even had the chance to grieve?
And to answer that, no. I've said it multiple times. How do you be how can you be a grieving mother and a good mother at the same time? It's incredibly difficult because you want to grieve the loss of your child and you want to be great for the children that are still here. And to put the two together, it almost seems like oil and vinegar. Like it constantly pulls you apart from what you think is right and what you don't think is right. New accomplishments that happen that you know that she'll never accomplish, but the younger ones do. And it's just really grief doesn't have a pathway. There's no roadmap to this. It wasn't given to me when I had her. And it's just something that you kind of learn to stay strong. Is you're the strongest when you don't have a choice.
You mentioned Madisyn's siblings. How are they doing?
Peyton is doing amazing. I mean, she is really living life for her. She's stepped out of her box of just being this little girl to this big sister role now. You know, she is the middle child, and I just really feel like she's doing a lot of things in memory of Madisyn and just really living through her and wanting to make her big sister proud. She's in sports that I never thought she'd do, drama, choir, you know, just things that are showing her that she's, hey, Madisyn, I'm here and I'm doing this for you. I want you to see my accomplishments and goals and just have that little bit of happiness that she can have, even though I know deep down she is struggling a lot. And Liam, it's really hard to understand, you know, what he feels, you know, especially he has autism and he's nonverbal, doesn't make very many sentences, very hard to understand, and it's really hard to associate death with an autistic child. They just don't understand it, and it pains me to not know how my child feels about losing his sister, and just trying to understand what he understands. So it's incredibly, it goes back to how do you be a grieving mom, how do you be a good mom at the same time? And it's impossible.
Wow. I mean, you know, one thing I hear from a lot of people is how incredibly strong you all are, you know, to sit through the Miller hearing, to sit through, you know, learning about the report, the findings. It's like every day you're learning something new, right? And how have you been able to navigate that? It had to be quite traumatizing, again, learning new things about what had happened that you didn't know.
So we always walk into a courtroom or any sort of trial or evidence that's going to be released or report with knowing that something else is going to get released. It's inevitable. And I just feel like if I put myself in that mind frame, it's a lot easier for me to cope or deal with it versus going in with a structured sound, like this is what's going to happen. I know, kind of going in without knowing is easier because I have time to process it.
Wow. I imagine there have been some really difficult things to learn in court with the report, the findings of the report. Was there anything that you learned that was at all comforting?
Yes, I had learned that when Madisyn had passed, I wasn't allowed to go to the school. I wasn't allowed to be there. I mean, pretty much I wasn't allowed to be a mom that moment. And I was incredibly grateful to find out from the report that Chief Police Department of Lake Orion, Harold Rossman, was on duty that day and reported to the school. And the first person he seen was Madisyn. And he performed CPR on her, knowing that wasn't going to help, but he was there with her and he stayed with her and comforted her and maybe said some words to just alleviate the pain for us that we couldn't be there, and just tell her, Mom and Dad love you, and they'd be here if they could. And it just gave me more peace to know that somebody was with her and she wasn't alone. I think that has helped me really grieve and really be thankful for that person.
And this is something you found out only recently?
Yes.
Wow.
Which is very unfortunate, because I would have just gave him a big hug and said thank you.
Wow. Have you reached out to him since?
I haven't yet, and I plan to. I really want to do it when my emotions are a little bit clearer, especially with upcoming events. But I plan on actually speaking to him, with him. I don't want to do it over the phone or anything like that. I just want to talk to him and just kind of tell me, you know, those last moments, you know, what were you doing? Like, how did she look? What, you know, just things that Mom wants to know. Like, just, was she comfortable? Or, you know, how did you make her comfortable in those last moments? So I plan on reaching out to him and just give him a big bear hug like Madisyn would have.
As you're dealing with this, also trying to fight for the district to be accountable for what they're responsible, or, you know, for what they did or what they didn't do.
Correct. I did a impact statement to the Board of Education. You know, everybody was going up there and talking about things that they want done, or things that, you know, they want people to resign, and just outright came like almost a battle between the community and the Board of Education. And when I went up there to speak, I didn't want to do that, because when you make a statement like that, it really needs to be impactful. That's why it's called an impact statement. So I went up there and, you know, told them, I'm not here to tell you what you should and what you shouldn't do with your life, or what is the right decision. I'm here to remind you that this won't be forgotten, that you will be reminded of these 4 children and the 7 survivors every single day. Even though you only have to hear me for 3 minutes, this is my every waking breath. This is what I do every single day. You don't get the luxury of forgetting. And that's the point I wanted to make across to this board, was it started with you. And how are you going to be held accountable for your administration, your teachers, the students? What are you going to do so that when you remember these 4 children, that I have to do better. I have to do better. And that's the point I wanted to get across to them. And I feel like I did. I wasn't negative. I wasn't mean or cruel, because those are things that Madisyn wasn't. I was to the point, and I was direct. And I was kind to them, to let them know.
So it's kind of a difficult balance of grieving, being a mother, trying to, you know, keep Madisyn's memory alive. Talk about some of the other things, and maybe how it's touched you in ways she's been remembered, like with the murals.
Yeah. So advocating is huge in our family for mental health. Obviously, we have a child that has mental health issues, and it's always been something in our family that we know is a little bit more difficult than others, and we navigate it, you know, how we know how to navigate it. And Madisyn was so big on it, with just the mental health aspect, kind of just trying to be that sister that's protective, but letting him go out on his journey, and the same with her sister as well. But when we made her arrangements and we're trying to figure out how to honor her and stuff, I asked everybody to, in lieu of flowers, to give money to Autism Speaks, to help other children and get the resources that these children deserve. And coming from a state that it is extremely difficult to get some of the help that you need, and not having enough people to supply those jobs with the special education, we were able to raise over $10,000 in donations in memory of her, and just donations from random people that just wanted to reach out. And the Clarkston community, which is her community, I'm not saying Oxford is not, but Clarkston was where she grew up. That's where she went to school, all the way into her senior year. They did a beautiful mural of her in their library. I mean, it was more than I could have ever expected. Zach Curtis, he did a phenomenal job, and with spray paint, it's just saying what they can do. And she has 2 trees, one in Oxford and one in Clarkston, and usually we decorate them for every season. People go and visit and say hello. The one in Clarkston is next to a playground and a dog park, so it's perfect for what her 2 favorite things were kids and animals. And she also has 3 trees in the rainforest, 3 stars in the registry, and just multiple tributes to her and her being. I mean, I've had kids reach out about tattoos and artwork and t-shirts and all these just different things that they just want to accommodate to get her voice out there. And one thing that was really heartwarming to me was that her best friend that was in Oxford created a Love for Madisyn Baldwin shirt, and it raised well over $15,000 in funds to give as acts of kindness. We didn't take any of that money to give to ourselves or anybody else. It was all in random acts of kindness that will be doing things that Madisyn loved. So donating to art studios, donating to the Humane Society, just getting Taco Bell or Starbucks gift cards, things that she loved, and just giving back to the communities that have helped us so much.
What does all that mean to you?
It just means that she was a perfect person in my eyes. She was loved. She was cared for. And I raised her right. And as a mom, that's the only thing that you want to do, is make sure your kids are happy and you're raising them and you listen to them. And I know I did that. And as unfair as this is, she will never be forgotten. She will never be a statistic. She will be a person that is remembered for her kindness, her love, her affection, her passion, her artistry, her intelligence. Everything that you possibly want in your child. That's what she is. And I am so proud to call her my daughter in more ways than I can explain.
Our sincerest gratitude to Nicole, as well as Justin Schilling's parents, Craig and Jill, for sharing their memories of their children with us. You can watch both of those interviews in their entirety on cbsdetroit.com. And we will carry live coverage of the Oxford shooter's sentencing hearing tomorrow. Our team coverage and analysis begins at 9 a.m. on the air and on our stream. And as we go to break, we just want to remember the young people whose lives were senselessly lost on November 30th of 2021. Justin, Madisyn, Tate, and Hannah. We'll be back after this.